Hi there, welcome to my channel. If you're new, I'm Sarah with Jujube Crafts and More. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I am participating in an open collab with Journey to Healthy. This is her Holly Jolly collab that she does every year. And if you haven't already checked out her page, you should definitely go over and see what Jess is up to. She follows the low carb and keto diet and has lots of great information and fun stuff on her page. So to get started in today's project, you're going to pick out a piece of paper. I chose this 12 by 12 from a paper pad I bought at Michael's, one of these mini palette boards, a cutting board, and a 4x6 frame. All of these last three items came from the Dollar Tree, and any frame will do, just make sure that it has the stand on the back. To get started, we're going to just take off the sticker from the cutting board. And I believe these cutting boards came in two different colors, red and white. I could only find the red at my Dollar Tree, so that's what I picked up, and it's perfect for Christmas crafting. So after I got that sticker off, I just wanted to check and make sure that there wasn't any sticky residue before I put my paper down. Next, I'm going to take my paper and I'm just going to press around the edges so that I can get a better idea as to how much I need to trim this paper. I want it to be a more manageable size. Next, I'm going to take my paper trimmer and I'm just going to trim the paper down to the size that I need. So here I'm going to show you a couple of tools you could use for this next part. There is a stylus that has rounded edges, and then this other one that has a pokey end, and then it's more of a, it's not super sharp, but it's not dull either. So I chose to go with the stylus because it has the rounded edges and I can get around this lip a little bit easier, I think. But you could use the other tool. Just make sure you're careful and don't press too hard so that you don't rip your paper. And basically I'm just taking the stylus and I'm just using it to really get an impression of that lip so that I can cut my paper down to exactly the size I need. Now you definitely didn't have to trim down the paper for this part, but like I said, I wanted to make it a more manageable piece, and so that's why I cut it down. Using my scissors, I am just going to cut around those lines that I made with that stylus, and it fits perfectly in that area. So here's your 30-second kitten break. Turn up the volume for her cuteness. Okay, that's enough Samoa. Next, we're going to take the back of this photo frame and we're just going to take this very back part out. And here I'm showing you, I had put this cutting board in between the little slats there, and it actually popped this piece out, which worked out much better than my original plan. So if you can get something underneath that and you can pry that up, that will be perfect for this project. So we'll come back to that in a second. Right now I'm going to fit this frame on the back of my cutting board, and what I'm doing is I'm just taking that corner of the stand and kind of lining it up to the corner of my cutting board. but really you want the stand to kind of be in the center of your cutting board so that when it opens up it's balanced, if that makes any sense. So using a boatload of hot glue, I'm going to hot glue this to the back of my cutting board. So if you were around for my last video, you know that I was talking about hot glue, and I used the Gorilla hot glue on this project today, and I definitely noticed a difference. So I think I will probably be sticking with the Gorilla hot glue. I will let you know in future videos my final thoughts on the Gorilla Glue, but at this point, after today's project, I'm definitely going to continue using it. So I decided when this part came off, there was a little bit of the wood left over, and there was a tiny bit of a little nail. So I just poked off the nail and then used that tool to get the rest of the wood off. And then I'm using my sanding block to really kind of sand it down and make it all nice and smooth. So I'm going to take some not Gorilla hot glue, I'm going to take Gorilla wood glue. And I'm going to do the wood glue and hot glue method to secure this piece down. And I apologize, but I'm out of frame here for the hot glue, but I just added that hot glue wherever there was no wood glue. And then I will set this down where I want it. So I was actually surprised that it really stuck after just a few seconds, and there was no budging it. I couldn't get it to move, so it worked really good. So I'm just going to wipe off any excess glue from the outside of my piece here, and then I will let that dry fully. So while that's drying, we're gonna Mod Podge some paper on it, and actually you can see right here that I changed my mind on the paper that I wanted to use. So I'm using dishwasher safe Mod Podge, and I figured that I had this on hand. I wanted to use it up for one thing, and for two, I kind of figured if it got a little dirty being in the kitchen that I could wipe it down easily, and hopefully it will stay good for a while. So I'm just going to really use my fingers and press down that paper to make sure that there aren't any air bubbles. Next, I'm going to take some of these little paper die cuts that I got from this package. This is from Doodlebugs, and they are so cute. I'm doing gingerbread in my kitchen, and so these worked out perfectly for what I wanted. So I'm just going to put some Mod Podge on the back of these little guys and adhere them down to the paper. And then I will add a layer of Mod Podge over the top of all the papers. So here I am using the silicone makeup sponge that a lot of people are using for hot glue, and I tried it for Mod Podge on a project a couple of videos ago, and it worked really super good, and so I wanted to experiment more with it, and so I used that makeup sponge to add the Mod Podge, and it really works so good. I'm really impressed with how well it works. So if you haven't tried it, give it a try. You might really like the way that your Mod Podge goes on. So I'm going to take some Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to paint my palette piece all white. And then I wanted to add some ribbon, like a bow, to the top of my handle. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I was kind of playing with this and just winging it. So I think I wrapped this red ribbon around twice, And this is just ribbon I got from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just taking some floral wire because I'll want to adhere that around my bow to secure the pieces together. So I'll just clip off a piece of that. And then I'm going to take some of this red and white gingham ribbon that I purchased also from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to make a bow to go on top of the red. So I'm just wrapping that around a couple of times. And I'll add that right to the top. So I want to make sure that I get the middle. So I'm just going to kind of bend this in half to figure out exactly where the middle is. Then I'll scrunch it together, and then I'll take my other bunch of ribbon, kind of figure out where the middle is, and then I'll lay that right on top. And then I'll take my floral wire, and I'm just going to wrap that right around the very middle of both of those pieces of ribbon. And this will create our bow. And this floral ribbon from the Dollar Tree is really super good. You can really twist this a lot and get that really super nice and tight, and it does not break off. It's super good. Even my husband was impressed with it. He had to use it for something today. He's like, this is great. So here I am just taking the loops and separating them. And this worked out perfectly. I didn't really intend for this to work out, but I had the tail ends of the ribbons on both, on each side of those ribbons, so I thought I would make them the little tails for my bow. So of course I'll play with this a little bit and get my bow how I want it. And then I knew I wanted something for the center of this bow. So I kind of went into my stash of stuff and I pulled out this heart. This was one of the sticker hearts, wood sticker hearts from Valentine's Day last year, or maybe even the year before. I don't know. I think I've had it for a while, but I'm just going to hot glue that right to the center of my bow. And I think that added the perfect touch to my bow. So then I'm going to use that floral wire from my bow and I'm going to secure it to the back of this cutting board. And I'll just twist it around a few times and then clip off the end. You could also add a little bit of hot glue if you don't want there to be any poking, like pokey ends. So just add a little bit of hot glue and that'll take care of that cut poked end. So then I wanted to make sure that my bow was secured in the front as well. So I'm just going to add some hot glue. And that'll make sure that my bow stays exactly where I want it. So now we are going to add our cutting board to our little palette piece. So I'm just going to take my hot glue and I'm going to run a bead of glue at the very bottom of this cutting board, right in the front, bottom, and then the very bottom. And then I'm going to stick that right up against the edge of that palette piece. Be careful, make sure you get it down in the palette, like in between, right at the edge of that piece of wood, not on top of it like I did. And then just hold it in place until it dries. And here's our first look at our little cell phone recipe small cookbook holder. So of course I had to add more because there was just something missing. So I went into my stash and I found these stickers, and I got the letters and put "Made with Love" for the front of this. So I've seen people do this with their rulers and the stickers, and of course I couldn't make it work quite right. And I ended up I thought I was going to tear my stickers. So, but it worked out okay. And here's a look at how this turned out. I think this is super adorable, and I am so happy with how it turned out. I cannot wait to put this in my kitchen. Very often when I'm cooking, I want to have my cell phone around so I can watch YouTube. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check out the playlist in my description box, and go check out all the other awesome creators who have made stuff for this Holly Jolly collab. And don't forget to check out Jess's page. Thanks a lot. Have a safe and happy day. Bye.